Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to the Sky Network Show, Season 5, Episode 20. Hey, hello Richie. Welcome.
Hey, how is everybody?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
Good.
Been a long time, huh?
Yes, sir.
Richie, the key segment today is mainly about the like yesterday, what we were the update on the Clarity Act, the progress on the Clarity Act is something which we are waiting on in order to let the community know the road our like basically sky's institutional roadmap, how the sky is planning to get itself ready for institution ready. So yeah, today's topic will be mainly around that. You good,
Yeah,
Rishi?
that's when it comes to adoption in the crypto space, we need to have clarity, right? And across every part of it, what's a stable coin classified as? How do you tax it? How is it registered? How does it operate? What's a token? What's a meme coin? What's a security when it comes to crypto? What's a gold backed, commodity backed token looked at? Are all blockchains considered utility, even if they're commodity backed, right? And that's a big thing for us on our side as well, because Evolve does have the reserve backing of gold. So we're in the kind of hybrid there. We're not quite just a blockchain, and we're not a gold backed stablecoin, right? We're the merge, we're the hybrid in between those. So even for us, Clarity has been there's been so many hours of work put into getting clarity on where and what regions we'd be associated as this or that, right? For example, from our research, we're probably going to do our token sale out of Uruguay because of the structure of the regulations there, right, and how they classified certain things. But the exchange for gold would have to be done through El Salvador, for example, because they have a commodity-backed regulation set in stone, right? The bridge and the swap would be best launched out of Dubai. So there's when it comes to crypto regulations, there's no perfect one country doing it right yet across the board on every part of crypto, right? Whether that's tokens, stable coins, gold backed, commodity backed securities. It's I guess like everything else. There's no perfect place to invest. There's no perfect place for housing. There's no perfect place to save your money in. There's multiple different places that are really good at one part of it, but there's no one central. This country, you can do it all from here. It has the structure for all of it, and I think that's where we're going next, right? I think in the next few years, we're going to have it where countries will slowly catch up and replicate each other in certain policies. Where at the end of the day, most countries will have all of these set in stone, right? And the difference might be how much you get taxed from one country to another, but you are classified as a commodity backed token or a utility token or a meme token NFT type thing or your security. And this is why, right? So Clarity Act in the US is a big step forward when it comes to operating in the US, right? And US being one of the bigger markets in the world, that's really a shoe that has to fall because I'm assuming Canada and the Western nations will follow whatever US does, follow their lead. That's traditionally been the case when it comes to regulations. And then Europe and the rest, there's a few countries. The MiCA regulations is there, right? So for certain parts, they do have a set in place the regulations, but there's still that gray zone in some other ones like gold back and etc. So this is a step forward that needs to happen, and the sooner they get it done. And from my understanding, the banks in the US are the ones dragging this along a little bit at this point. Now, I'm not up to date on every single update, the last ones that happened. So maybe you can give us a short breakdown. So I know it was they were breaking it down to four different sections, right? When it comes to the Clarity Act of what cryptos fall under.
Yeah, kind of, Richie. And as you rightly said, right now in today's time, there is no single jurisdiction which is good for like Web3. But that doesn't mean that there will not be. I do see that the way that the regulation has been moving in last 2 years, I think I'm very confident that by 2028, I think we will have all. much better framework. So, for example, the problem right now is, as you rightly said, right, that okay, gold backed stable coins are allowed, but Evolve is not a gold backed stable coin, right? It is innovative, it is different, and so the acts also needs to recognize that diversity, and in order to have those structured, it is going to take time. So right now, currently, I'm working on constitution. Okay, for our decentralized autonomous, or like our for our DAO, which would end of the day run the project, and into from like long term decision makings to managing the treasuries, managing the liquidities, managing the market making, managing the day-to-day operations as well as nodes. Again, the key responsibilities of the blockchain foundations, okay, are we are moving towards that. And when I was making that, I get to understand the challenge also in much more like clearer terms. So making rules and the laws that govern the specific things, specific segment, and specifically highly understood segments, that is also a challenge. Whereas here, because of the like the innovation itself, the rate of innovation is so high that it becomes very high for any government to formulate rules which kind of works for everybody.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the we're going at a pace that the governments couldn't possibly keep up with, because with AI incorporated now into all of this, and the ability for people to amplify their efforts by times, not by percent, not by 20, 30%. It's literally 4 or 5 times what you used to do before. You could now do utilizing some of these tools and resources you have available to you now that you didn't have 10 years ago, etc. Um, the governments are kind of in a bad spot because we can innovate much faster than they could regulate. So there's always going to be that gray zone for years until they can get together because they move extremely slow. It takes years and years to get something done, registered, proposed, passed, right? It gives us opportunities to kind of be free in our development for a little bit, but then it also gives us that kind of like, hey, how are they going to regulate this in the future? And will that end that opportunity? Will that restrict what we're doing? Will that put a damper on the success of something like decentralized dexes and the rest? Um, we can build so much faster than they can regulate.
Yeah,
So it's kind of like a teeter totter where you, as a developer and a creator of these use cases and these tools, you're trying to kind of say, hey, um, how are they going to regulate this in the future? How do we think they will, right, or assume they will, and how do we make sure we're compliant with that, right? So that we don't have problems with certain
correct.
countries like the SEC in the US, for example, right? It's a very like, and how does this stop you from being innovative in the first place, right? Will that stop you from making something that's truly a decentralized tool that everyone will want to use and it'll benefit them greatly because a country might see that in one way or another.
Correct.
So it's
That
it's
is
a
also a key component, and that is the key reason also, the difficulty of the building the rules around the situation as well. So, for example, um, it is a new business, like it's a new type of world which so government cannot control it. Number one, it cannot regulate it in a way that it can do the traditional finance. Now, that is a good sign and a bad sign. Good sign is for the users, it is a bad sign for the government. uh,
exactly.
yeah, and but Richie, there will so right now we are in that period where the things are being innovated, but I'm pretty sure that the world do need uh, an innovative jurisdiction also. It's
But
not
can't
just
we be like, that's the other side of this too now. So the governments over and over have sometimes got stuff right, right, in their regulatory and trying to protect the people, which I think everyone as a creator of a blockchain networks, etc., we want to protect the consumer. We want to protect the clients, the community members, all of that, right? There's none of us that start off thinking we want to not have them operate in a safe environment where they can thrive. So with Evolve, we have Evo certified, right? We've gone out of our way to make a certification where projects that launch on Evolve can get this Evo certification. They do an audit, they do a KYC, KYB, and we then, because of that, the chances of them doing something malicious to their community go down to almost a theoretical zero, right? It's not perfect. Something could still happen, but we have what we need to give the authorities that information if someone were to do something malicious, right? That right there would drop the chances of a verified project from doing something from maybe 10, 15%, maybe less than that, to theoretical almost zero because there's repercussions. There's no more this in the shadow stuff, right? And then
Exactly.
people want to interact with these tokens, these projects on the Evolve network. If they're not Evo certified, they understand there's a higher risk to those, right? And they take that risk associated with that because they know, hey, this hasn't been verified. We haven't audited the contract. There might be something malicious in the contract, and we don't know who these people are, right? So there's that balance where people have to kind of choose in the future. And at the end of the day, with all DeFi, with all of crypto, the concept of blockchain, we take the power into our own hands and we take the responsibility at the same time into our own hands. So if we're acting in a way that's careless, right? Leave your keys on your laptop or write down your private keys and leave it on your countertop in a public setting. Like there's things we have to do on our side to protect ourselves. Now on the blockchain side, doing AML, doing KYC, doing audits of contracts, right? When you do the public sales, making sure you're not selling it to known bad actors, right? That's something we can do or can try to at least as much as we can. But at the end of the day, like Evo certified is kind of a solution in a way. And I think we'll come up with better options and better regulatory solutions than the regulators will because they don't understand the concept of this technology. They're not in it
Yeah.
every day. They don't see the development. They don't see the changes and the evolution of this over time. They're saying, hey, cryptocurrencies, how do we tax it and how do we make sure that people can't do like a security, for example, right? Um, I don't think they have the background to do this properly. Yes, they're looking for advice from like Coinbase's guy and a few other big guys in the industry to help guide them through it. But the legislation and the the people in the office, the government that aren't crypto, don't know crypto, that are trying to regulate this themselves, I I think they'll get close, but they won't get it perfect. The only way to get it perfect is like working with our side, right? The builders of the ecosystems, and then we'll get to a kind of like marginal back and forth there with a leveling out type thing. It's probably take years. They'll take the first steps. It'll be rough. It'll be overregulated, underregulated, and then in a few years it'll level out, and they'll fine tune that, right? That comes from like feedback, and we have to work with them. Is the end of this, right? We can't, hey, screw these people or screw, I don't want to work with the government type thing. You can't work like that anymore, right? We have to be like, hey, this is what you guys have done. This is a proposal we have that might regulate this better, right? That's more supporting of the innovation in this sector and not like dampening it or suffocating it because it's going to happen if you're over regulating here. I'm going to go somewhere else, right? We're going to whatever country because no one's going to swim upstream for no reason. So as a company in a crypto project and use case created and tools creation on using blockchain and AI and the rest, we as companies will go to wherever we are most supported and we can be more successful, right? And give the most ability for everyone to use
Yeah.
our tool.
Also, Richie,
Way
yeah,
doesn't.
sorry to interrupt you. But also the key challenge here is not the creating of the rules; it's about the enforcement of the rules, right? Because government do not own the blockchain.
Yeah, there's
So
parts they can't touch, and they have to get used to that concept because not even us, as the creators of the blockchain, right, and structure of how it's built, once it's launched, we can't touch it, right?
correct.
As long as there's not enough nodes to work together to do anything,
Mm.
um, nothing can be done there, even from us. So when they're like, "Oh, you have to control your blockchain, or you have to do this or that," and you tell them, "Hey, we can't," right? It is what it is. It's out there, and the only person that can do that is the whole community together in agreement. And you're not going to get that from people who got blockchain or use blockchain to make sure that their assets can't be taken by anyone at any point in time, because it's a decentralized network and they can't say, hey, we closed your account and now you can't pay your bills, right? Which has happened
But
recently. A few years
also
back.
the answer, Richie, this is also the answer to the problem. The answer to the problem is, because government cannot control things, it cannot, enforce the laws, but there is, so the self custody, the idea of self custody, that is itself being challenged by the governments and the laws, right?
What's the main challenge there that you perceive?
Look, it's self custodial. The person has a custody. As long
Yes,
as the person has a custody, they are, like, it is not possible to enforce it. So
because you're not holding anything for anyone. They're holding their own. They
it's
launched their own contracts. They
exactly,
have
it's like the
their own
core
crypto.
idea of the wallet itself comes in the way.
Yeah.
Because, for example, when you, what do you consider a wallet? That is the key question always. Do you
Anything that's
consider
owned
data?
by them that controls their crypto, right?
No.
Whether it's
What is
gold, hog, etc.
correct? So, but as I was saying that, uh, the solution which I could see coming, in the coming years, like, I mean, combined by all of the governments, uh, would be, a layer on top of the public layer, which would be like an institutional layer, because, they can control that layer. Institutional layer probably will not be fully decentralized.
So
Um,
layer two over whatever network they decide that they can then set the terms and rules, and where they
it will
can
be like a
block
layer zero.
that one.
Rich, it is like a layer zero, but, it consists, like, kind of, it restricts the flow of the assets throughout the multi networks, but, like, it's like a parallel channel. There is one public channel, so there is always public pools, there will be an institutional pools, there will be, like a consumer, dabs, there will be, institutional dabs. The
I
thing.
think that the genie's out of the box already.
Yeah,
I think
yes,
Pandora's box has been opened, and you can never close it again. When we have control of all our assets, and the government can say, "Hey, we need you guys to work in this play box now, where we can freeze your accounts and the rest." And I want you to send your assets from your controlled one, where we can't touch it, into our controlled one, where we can, and we have the rules made up the way we want to. And most people that have crypto say, "You know what? I'm staying exactly where I am because you can't force me to do any of that." Right? I might send a little bit over to pay for taxes and pay
yeah,
for my property taxes or stuff that's involving the government, but the majority is not going into that system where I'm going right back into the same problems that blockchain solved with the decentralized nature, right?
yeah,
So I think if they push too hard on their side, they're going to lose that battle, because we're already exchanging crypto back and forth. I already use crypto to pay for groceries and coffee and the rest, right?
mm.
Using a Visa debit at this point, backed by the crypto stuff. Um, I don't think we go back that far. I think
So,
there's
I mean,
a
Richie, what
balance.
I'm not suggesting that we do go back. What I'm suggesting is, one second. Yeah,
I think you're right. I think they're going to try doing something like that and having us shift into that to operate in the government systems.
yeah. So I think, see, today the problem is, any government do not have a custodial wallet system, which where they can provide the custodial wallet services to their citizens. That is the key problem right now.
Yeah, honestly, it's
Because they can't let go with the self custody. The self with the self custody regulation, like, the regulating the industry becomes hard, and, the governments themselves don't have a architecture like fire blocks right now to, give the government, like, give the corporates, their own accounts, or we don't have any I mean, we do have some, but, still it's, not yet reached to that maturity, the concepts of crypto banks also. So
there might be a hybrid here where it's like they end up realizing that people are not going to stop using their blockchains they're already associated with, that they're already in and holding their assets in, but the government's going to ask them, okay, if you're going to use that, then
mm,
KYC your wallet, so then at least we can tax what you spend on, etc. And there's going to be people that don't pay taxes now with cash, right? That they're going to keep doing it without making those KYC wallets. And there's going to be some that abide by that, right? And you still have the ability not to be forced to do anything, right? Just like if I had cash right now, you'd have to take it from my hands to take it from me. But if I have an account that's a digital account, you can freeze my account. That's a problem, right? You're affecting someone's ability to feed their family. That's a huge problem. And crypto solved that problem with the decentralized nature. I
Yeah.
think there has to be that give and take on both sides, where it's like, okay, I have this wallet. I'm going to KYC my wallet, and when I spend, my government's gonna say, hey, okay, so you spend this much this year. We've calculated because of perfect ledger, right? This whole crypto is done for criminals and the rest is ridiculous because literally see every single transaction. The second you get a KYC, the second you interact with any exchange or any KYC entity to make that into fiat or etc., pay for something with it, you are KYCing yourself, right? At that point in time, you have a perfect record of everything that happened, and now you just associated with your wallet with that.
See.
So there has to be transparency in some parts of this, but it all depends how far they reach out, how far they're trying to kind of control. Because I think, will there be some people that use a central bank digital currency? Yeah, of course. There's people that just sign up for it day one. And there's gonna be a lot of people that say, you know what, that's not for me, right? And then people have to make their own decisions as well. And governments have to be very careful on how they come out with these regulations and how restrictive they are. And for the most part, like Vera seems to be doing it okay. Mika, Vera, the VASPs, when it comes to like Uruguay and stuff, this seems to be a decent proposed structure, right?
Yeah.
We're still have to innovate. There's KYC and AML associated, of course, but it's not like, hey, you have to use our digital currency, central bank digital currency, and we will have control of what you do there, and we can possibly program it where you can buy $100 worth of groceries every week, but no more because of insert your topic of the year now, right? Climate change, whatever it may be, right? Where they're trying to go out of their way to tell you what to do and how to spend your hard-earned money. So it's such a gray zone right now. They can go a few different ways. I hope it goes the right way, but given past experience with how governments have tried to overreach sometimes, like what happened in 2021, where they locked up thousands of bank accounts and people were literally not even able to pay for groceries or pay their bills. That's a problem that we can never let happen again. And blockchain kind of suggests or gives us the solution to that. But we have to kind of stand to our side as well. So there has to be give and take on both. It can't just be they say, okay, now we have this technology, we're going to do it this way. Too bad, do it, right? There has to be belief is what it is. People have to make a decision where they want to live in this world and how they want to operate. There's countries that are great and there's countries that are terrible, and you got to make that decision what's best for you and your family in the future and your company as well.
Yeah. But I do see the future is good.
I think
With
so.
and
We
I do see that in near term, like in less than 5 years, we could have a much solid background in multiple jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Kind of, like a V1 for uh, our industry.
We always focus on the extreme sometimes when it comes to like what could possibly go wrong, how bad it could go, or how they can overreach. But I don't think that's going to be the end case. I think that enough countries are looking at this as innovation and going to help their country grow as well, right? And bring innovation to their country. So I
Mhm.
think there's going to be a balance that is going to be struck eventually. It might take a few years, like you're saying. I completely agree with that. But I think we're going to get there. I think it's not going to be like us versus them. It's going to be us working together to have this innovative technology really thrive throughout our society. When you think about tokenizing assets and ownership, that's a gigantic use case that's needed, right? Fraud when it comes to like mortgage fraud and your personal people taking lines of credit against your name, and then you find out once a year that took out $30,000 against your name or something. That wouldn't be able to happen if you use tokenized ID and tokenized ownership of assets, right?
Correct.
You don't have it, it's not in your wallet. You can't take something against it, right? Verifiable to the core. There's so much innovation that will come out of this. We're at
Mhm.
that. It feels like we've been uh, so many years and we're late, but it's not. We're so early. It's just getting started in the crypto space. We're just like we're taking the first steps when it comes to mass adoption. We're nowhere even close to 10% adoption in the world, right? This is still very small, but we're taking the
Do you
right
remember
stride.
the adoption of computers by the banks, Richie?
What was that?
Uh,
Sorry.
do you remember the adoption of the computers by the banks?
No. So I remember when I was in like grade one when I first had the first computer I ever saw, and it was in the library, and there was the floppy disks and the very very old, and it was a state of the art at that time, and it took what 10, 15 years before it was like everyone had a computer, and um, it was then the cell phones came out with basically cell phones are like little computers now that were
Yeah,
much faster than the first ones we started with, and then the banks went from being all on paper with those little books to keep records of everything, and now it's all digital,
yeah,
right? So it took quite a while to get the transfer over from nothing paper to digital.
correct. So I remember like going to the bank before the computer era. There used to be like one computer probably or two computers by every branch or something like that, just
Yeah,
for that like that time there used to be fax machines and this ones, right? But anyway, so without going back into what I mean to my point is when banks became became digitalized till today, if you there would be banks in the countries where they don't have 100% of their history documented into the digital. Today also they go back to the, I remember like I mean today if you'll go to the bank with any issues from 1960s or 1970s, of course they are not going to have anything, right? And they have not even digitized the older records also. It's like they'll go back again still they have to carry that burden with them. Similarly, with the blockchain also, I think by 2020, this is again my speculation, but I think by 2032 is the time I see that you know we will have a public layer and institutional layer, where the institutional layer will be very much highly regulated and centralized, whereas the public layer will stay free as it is right now. But the incentives will differ a lot. The institutional setups will have more incentives than the consumer ones, because end of the day the also, for example, Richie, for corporates, the private key and the management of the private key is also very big issue. Okay,
yep, 100%.
because like any government considers any wallet address owned by the company as a bank account.
Yep.
As simple as that. Now, but the good thing with the bank accounts are they can't be stolen. And if somebody got access to your bank account, also you can get it back via bank. Here you can't go back to the Ethereum and they can't get your wallet back.
I think that's where we're going to shift in the future from
And that's
regular
why
single
the
wallets
custody,
to
yeah, and
vaults.
that's why custody is the issue, and the architecture which supports like and there are architectures right now. Like for example, we have MPCs. We have like for example Fireblog, multisigs. We have new tech which is coming. For example, 721 signature right now. That is also sorry, not 720, 812, 812, right? That is a new protocol which we got recently. uh, I mean that resolves this issue specifically. But yeah, the innovations will keep coming, and I do see that we have a good future. And for secure chains roadmap also, we have the same thing mapped out. We have a public layer as of now, and in future we will also have an institutional layer, which kind of gives us the freedom to stay decentralized while being able to uh, have a utility of an institutional project.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like corporations and holding of their assets, etc., I don't think we're going to see any corporation holding assets with a single wallet anymore in the future. I think it's going to be multi sigs, or we call evo vaults on our side. That will be the status quo across all institutional holding of any assets, because then you can make that, you need at least 3 out of 5 transaction wallets to approve any transaction, and you can verify who owns those wallets. If one wallet gets compromised, it doesn't compromise the vault itself. Even for personal use, I think that people's using of savings accounts, where you keep the majority of your crypto in your private wallet, I don't think those should be single wallets anymore. I think those should be multi-sigs for all of it, right? The chance of you compromising 3 out of 5 wallets, or you can go extensive. You can do 10 out of 20, like 12 out of 20, or whatever you want to do there, or even 2 out of 3 is fine as well to start. But that concept, I think, will be used a lot more. And it's going to be like you have a wallet on your phone, a wallet on your desktop, a wallet on a tablet. And when you want to send money out of, or assets out of your vault, your savings account, to your, and you'll have multiple wallets. I think people shouldn't necessarily just have one wallet to do everything. If you dabble in NFTs and speculate, then you should have a wallet just for NFTs. If you buy stuff with crypto and you have your day-to-day stuff, that's like your wallet, your physical wallet that you have cash in right now, right? You're not going to keep all your savings accounts, have all your cash on you at all times. You have cash in the bank. That resembles a vault, right? The savings account. And you kind of put yourself in a way where you're not putting yourself in a spot where you can compromise everything at once. There's no single point of failure. That's one of the concepts of blockchain, having no single point where you could have all your assets stolen. And I think when people realize the options out there and the tools available already, right, and on our side, we're trying to make that as easy to access as possible with the tools that we're releasing and the rest, they'll be able to have a vault that secures their main resources, and open up a spending wallet, an NFT wallet, and a speculative wallet, trading wallet, that they could then fund through their main wallet as if it was their digital bank, right? Backup is, you have rules of that multi-sig that you can build in backups to that multi-sig to get it back if something happens. Not if it's compromised completely. If you have 5 wallets compromised of 7 wallets, then that's not your fault for security reasons on your side, that you've made mistakes. But if you take your time and do due diligence here, you can put yourself in a good position where it's just as secure as institutional holding of your assets. Because again, there's always a risk, institutional, that they can hold your assets, not release your assets, etc., because they have it, right? It's not your keys, not your crypto, unless you own it and it's in your personal wallet, which is one of the key concepts of blockchain, in my opinion. You don't have ownership of it. You don't have control of it. You're hoping that institutions, and for the most part, they're going to be good up on this, right? There's no institution that will go other way to break that confidence with the community members. But the option is there to do it, right? Hacks happen all the time when it comes to institutions, etc. So it's a fine line, and you gotta, your what do you call it? Your preference, or your uh, risk tolerance comes into play here, right? Do you want to say, okay, give an institution all my crypto and have insurance and the rest, but there's a possible chance of centralized control there, where something happens, they can lock you out of your account, right? Or you hold your crypto yourself and guarantee they can't do that, but then you have the security risk of you compromising your account, right? So it's kind of like everyone has to make their decisions on how much risk they want to associate, and how they're going to plan to secure their crypto in the best way possible, where they have fallbacks and backup plans, never keeping everything in one spot, etc. And that's kind of like the educational side of things now, I think, has to be front and center when it comes to securing your crypto, understanding how that works, having good practices when sending, receiving, holding crypto. And that way it puts everyone in a great position to be able to thrive in this ecosystem, right? And not have that traditional getting scammed or hacked or loss of keys, etc. There's millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions at this point, of crypto that's been lost already in value. So it's definitely a case in the market that needs to be addressed completely. And I think education is the first step in that. And then it's executions, people actually putting those into practice and making sure they're securing their stuff. They're doing best practices. They're really taking ownership and responsibility when it comes to holding their crypto. That's so important. I can't state that enough.
True, Richie. But thank you very much for very valuable discussion today. Okay, and I think we have already overshoot our time by 5 minutes. But thank you, dear community, for joining in and listening in the show. We are doing good with the regulations improving. We are working on our governance structure, and we are working on our institutional structure. We already have our public structure ready, so things are going in the good shape and in the right direction. Stay tuned, everyone. Wishing you everybody a very happy weekend and a productive week ahead. I will see you next Saturday 2 p.m. UTC sharp. But before we go to the towards Richie. Richie, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Thanks for having me again. Great discussion as always. Um, yeah, it's we're in a space where things are moving so quickly at times and so slow when it comes to regulations at times. So everyone out there, I think let's just take a step back sometimes and let things settle out, right? Act in a way that you kind of limit your risk to regulatory problems in the future, as you see the kind of like steps that the governments are taking and the way they're trying to push this forward in the general direction. Even though we don't have perfect clarity at this point on all fronts, we have it on some. So abide by those for the time being and think ahead when you're planning on building and innovating. But I look forward to next conversations. We'll see you guys in the future.
Definitely, Richie. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next Saturday 2 p.m. UTC sharp. Meanwhile, have a good day. Bye.